Hi, I'm Aniket Kadyan, and we are discussing sex and gender roles in video games. Last time in the blog, we discussed about the gender bias and sex roles generally found in the video games. We had a hero archetype and the damsel in distress trope. We had, in conjunction with them, the stereotypical sex roles found in video games, like men being warriors and women being healers. We also discussed hypersexualization of characters, both male and female. We also discussed about the concept of the ideal feminine heroine. We took inspiration from the work of Sarah Grimes and discussed ideal feminine heroine with examples of famous characters like Jill Valentine from the Resident Evil games, Sarah Ames from Mass Effect, and Evie Fry and Cassandra from the Assassin's Creed universe. We talked about how these characters, while ducking most stereotypes, still felt forced and tokenized. We saw that how, as time progressed with games, these female characters became more and more independent, bucked more and more social norms, and became more integrated into the storyline. Now, all our discussion was from the point of view of the games or the game character. Now let's take a different point of view, either that of the game developers or the players. Let's talk about the developers first. From the point of the developers and the game companies, video games are a business. So they have to create what the market is for. To understand that, let's talk about the history of the video games. Video games started in 1980s from the game arcades, which were places frequented by teenage boys. So as the scene shifted from arcades to personal computers with the advent of 1990s, video games became computer games, and but the target audience remained the same. In a survey in the 1980s, it was found that there were 80% of the men playing video games compared to 20% of women. So most games by then were made for men and had things like violence and car chases and sexualization and objectification of women. Why? Because the target audience wanted that. Now in 2020, it has been observed that 52% of the players are women. That means that the target audience has changed a bit, which can also be observed in the evolution of games, with more games becoming gender neutral or female friendly as the time progresses. Now, this increase in number of female players should mean that the number of games which are female friendly or gender neutral should increase, and the number of games which have such gender biases and which are controversial should decrease. But that is not entirely the case. While the number of female friendly and gender neutral games has increased, the number of games which were controversial and had such gender biases have also increased. And they are in the news and are being talked about. So, why does that happen? Now, as you can see, that while the number of female players has increased, they prefer to play puzzle games and match 3 and family sim type of games. But males still prefer the traditional racing, shooters, sports, and online battle type of games. This means that there is still a market for the traditional type of games. Just the number of female increased players has created a market for a usual previously non-famous and non-market friendly genres. So yes, the number of female players has increased, but there are still games which were argued about and are still in controversy. And they will continue to be developed because there is a market from them which the game developers and companies are not going to miss. So, from a developer and company perspectives, there is no bias in games, and if there is, there will be biased games. Now, let's talk about from the perspective of the players. If you talk to a teenager or a young adult about their experiences and thoughts about video games, you will hear a variety of comments. General comments are from which come from women are about games being too violent in shooting and being geared towards men and not towards women, or being overly sexualized and objectifying women and thus not being meant for women at all. They also have comments about societal norms of women not playing video games and being made fun of by friends if they do so. For boys, you will hear comments about certain games like puzzles, matching, and dress up games being girly and not being made for boys. And them defending their video games like the over sexualization makes the games look better and more enjoyable. Or it doesn't matter that the games are violent. We're not doing that in real life. We're just enjoying the game. Now, there are many arguments like these about games having biases or the games being violent or the games being geared towards men. But those arguments are, let's say, old. They do not hold point now because now there are multitude of games which do not fall under those accusations, which do not cause any controversies, which can be considered gender neutral and family friendly. So generalizing computer games as biased or sexist is just wrong. There are also comments like, you know, a certain game, say GTA 5, has three leads, all three male leads. So it's a gender biased game and not for women, which is just wrong. It's like saying Jane Austen novels have all mostly female leads and those are gender biased and sexist, which they are not considered to be by the general population. Just including characters to make a game gender inclusive or racially inclusive does not make the game entertaining or gender inclusive. It's just tokenization. We have a token female character, we have a token black character, we have token characters which may or may not fit into the storyline and may or may not be entertaining, which is the purpose of the games. Now, personally, I don't think that video games are sexist. Yeah, there can be some features which can be argued to be controversial or sexist. But that's like beauty in the eye of the beholder. What is considered sexist or offensive by a person may not be considered sexist or offensive by me. What influences another person to take certain actions or develop a certain point of view may not influence me. So, a debate about the games inculcating wrong values, or the games being sexist, or the games being gender biased is a moot point. Now, I don't care about the games having a sexualized, characters, or the games having some racial bias, or the game having some gender bias, or fitting some stereotypes. I'm not there playing games to form a social point of view. I'm playing games for their entertainment value. If they look good, if they entertain me, if they engage me, if they introduce me to a new world, to a new fantasy, and to maybe new cultures, then yes, I'm there to enjoy them. To debate the point of the games being, you know, gender biased is just wrong. If you don't enjoy something, don't play it. Don't talk about it. In conclusion, sex and gender bias may exist in computer games, but they are subjective, person to person. You cannot say that the computer games as a whole are biased or a certain type of computer games are biased. We cannot even say that the games are biased towards the male gender and are not supportive of the female gender. There are a multitude of games which are biased, which can be considered to be biased towards the male gender, which are geared towards being played by female players. There are also an increasing number of games which are gender neutral or gender inclusive to be played by anyone of any gender, any sexuality. So, a debate on gender and sex biases in games, I don't think there's a point.